Once hell reigned over the world. Dictatorship swallowed the earth.
Wann werden wir wieder ein Vorteil, genau wie die Väter einst auch Deutschland nicht Geschenk erhielten, sondern selbst den Schlapp trugen.
Borders being shattered. Thousands of lives lost to save the lives of many. This is a story about the men and women that helped bring one of the most terrifying wars to an end. They were there during those dark times. Remember World War II, as told by veterans of Motley, Staples, and Wadena, Minnesota. World War II started September 1st, 1939, with Germany invading Poland. Poland summiting to Germany after Germans broke through the Polish barricades, succeeding in their first victory. December 7th, 1941. Japan makes a surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, declaring war on Britain and the United States.
The day the Japs came in was December the 7th, 1941, and I was down in my bunk room. This was on a Sunday morning, and reading a newspaper. And I looked out the porthole and could see Ford Island, and smoke and noise and everything. So, well, then general quarters sounded, and there's another guy down there in the bunk room. So we headed for the stairway to get up into our battleship. He happened to be in number one turret as well, but we split. I went right and he went left. And here come a Zero right around the corner, machine gunning. I don't know how he missed us, but he went right down between the both of us. We never got a scratch.
May 1942. Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto sought to draw the U.S. Pacific Fleet into a battle. To accomplish this, he planned an invasion on Midway Island in Hawaii. Using decrypted Japanese radio intercepts, Admiral Chester Nimitz was able to counter this offensive.
Over half of our job was making up messages that was using information that they knew we knew and putting the wrong directions in it. Like if we knew where the fleet was going to be moving next for the next engagement, and instead of having that fleet go the way that they were already scheduled to go, and everything was being set up that way, and we'd take them off maybe 90-degree different course. And if they had any submarines and stuff in the area, they would be sending them the wrong way, which would work out. And we knew they'd break our code because we knew they had it, just from the information that they were using in their work, that they didn't know we had their code broke, that they had broken some of ours. And then that's the one we'd be using all the time to let them get this misinformation. We called it schoolgirl letters.
So on June 4th, 1942, 3 U.S. aircraft carriers, USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and USS Yorktown, attacked and sank 4 Japanese carriers, forcing Yamamoto to withdraw.
I was on the USS Hornet CV-12, they called it. It was the second Hornet. The first one was sunk. And we had SB-2C dive bombers and Hornets, and the fighter planes were, and then we had some F-4Us with the gull wing like that, but it was mostly Hornets, and they were fast fighter planes. And that ship was about 5 city blocks long. You put that in one of our towns up here and it would, you couldn't see the town. We had a crew of 5,000 people, sailors, and that included the pilots too.
This marks the turning point in the Pacific War. On June 6, 1944, American soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy. Facing heavy resistance, the American, British, and Canadian forces still managed to establish a foothold on the continent of Europe. The liberation of Europe came at a heavy price for the veterans of Staples. Hitler had convinced himself that the alliance between Britain and France and America in the western sector of Europe was not strong enough, and that a major attack would break up the alliance. Therefore, he ordered a massive attack against what were primarily American forces in Northern Europe. The Battle of the Bulge started on December 16, 1944. It was the last major Nazi offensive against the Allies in World War II. As for Ray Nicholson, the Battle of the Bulge will be a memorable battle.
Our first engagement was Battle of the Bulge in Belgium. When we were attached to the 9th Armored Division. And as a result, we were their air protection for the 9th Armored. And we would be sent from one unit to another off and on to set up and protect them against enemy aircraft. Well, the Battle of the Bulge was in the enemy's favor because it snowed and was cold and overcast, and as a result the enemy fared very well. I spent Christmas Eve in the Battle of the Bulge I slept on the hood of the half-track to keep warm. It was cold, and we had to have our half-tracks running because our radios were dependent on having the batteries completely fully charged to power the radio, because that was our lifeline.
Allies prevailed at the Battle of the Bulge, but for Ray, the war was far from over. On the morning of March 7th, the 27th Armored Infantry Battalion Combat Command B, U.S. 9th Armored Division, reached the heights overlooking the town of Remagen. As American troops moved into the town, they expected the bridge to be blown up by the Germans before it could be captured.
We got to the Rhine River and the German troops were retreating across the river. I saw them. They were running double time, fast as they could go. And most of them had left their equipment behind and were just running for their lives across that railroad bridge is what it was, a double-track railroad bridge across the Rhine River. I had to supply my platoon, had a whole platoon, D battery, was across the river, and I had to supply the fuel and food and ammunition for my platoon. So I made several trips with the weapons carrier across that bridge on the railroad ties. Well, finally our 9th Armored Engineers laid down 2 huge pontoon bridges. So we had two-way traffic, and I saw an M1 tank go across that pontoon bridge, and I couldn't believe how that worked. The bridge actually stood straight up at 90 degrees right in front of the tank, and it went down in the water as they proceeded across the river. There's a lot of weight on that pontoon, but it worked. They did it all the time. Got a lot of equipment across there, and as a result, we held the ground that we took, and we succeeded in crossing Germany.
By 1945, Germany was out of the war, but there still remained a threat to the world. Japan was still in it for the long haul in the Pacific War and wasn't willing to back down from U.S. soldiers and our allies. With the world still at danger, 2 nuclear weapons were developed by the Manhattan Project.
The motivation for Harry Truman to drop that bomb was to save American lives. And they figured at the time that I was supposed to go in, and the reason I enlisted was because to get in the Navy instead of the Army, because they figured they would have to invade Japan, and being it the religious and stuff they were, you die in battle, you went to heaven. That was their beliefs, and of course everybody there would be armed and ready to fight. And when Truman had the decision to make, well, whether he would destroy a lot of Japanese people or a lot of American soldiers, and he chose to save the American soldiers. Otherwise, it would have been like a massacre to start with before he got into that island. They had it mined on the sea all the way around it, so you would have a hard time getting in there, and there'd be ships sinking too. And of course, they'd send in the minesweepers first, but even so, there's going to be some that, like I said, that we run into in the middle of the ocean that broke loose, and it would be it would be hell. That's all there's to it.
Harry Truman became president after President Roosevelt passed away. So when Harry Truman became president, he said it was time to end the war and gave the signal to release the atomic bombs. Little Boy was the first of the bombs to drop on the city of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Within the first 2 to 4 months, Little Boy's acute effects killed 90,000 to 166,000 people in Hiroshima.
I was on Guam. It was in B-29 outfit, but the bombers, the Enola Gay bomber was from Saipan that carried the nuclear weapons over, or the bomb over to Japan. And it was a trying time. They had the first one, and Japan didn't say anything until they did the second one, and then Japan declared an end to the war.
The second atomic bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on the city of Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, with a total of 60,000 to 80,000 deaths, leaving the world devastated from the power of these 2 bombs. On the 15th of August, 1945, Japan announced its surrender to the Allies, signing the Instrument of Surrender on the 2nd of September, officially ending World War II. World War II was a turning point in world history. The Central Minnesota veterans have never forgotten their roles in that struggle. Hopefully, because of their willingness to talk, neither will any of us.